My friend had told me that I needed to get rid of my storage unit.
This is my life
I had
for the last
a
6
group
years.
of maybe four close friends, if I can do four of us, back in New York City before I had left and moved to Moscow. And that was back in 2017. When I was packing up my life
Well, if you
to
can get
put
the
it on
couches
hold,
in that little section right there,
what
it
I
won't
had
work.
envisioned was this
Or what about the lamp? No?
very well planned out route to specific countries
There's two
in order
standing.
to obtain
There's
more
one
language
that's silver
skills
and there's
for
one
my
that's
field in foreign
bronze.
affairs as I continue to
There's
rise
another
on this
bronze
career
one. They
ladder
were
within the
twins.
United Nations.
Okay.
So
What
I
about the
had
mirror? Can
every
it slide in
intention,
somewhere there?
every belief that I was going to come back to New
Might break.
York and buy a
It's up
home
to you.
there, a
It's a
small
big mirror.
apartment,
It's like maybe
and
as
just
tall as both of us or something, somewhere between our
start
heights.
start that chapter in my
But
life.
that small couch, no? Okay, no
And in
worries.
order to do that, I needed to put
Huh?
the parts that I had already
Yes,
built
please.
or were in process of building into a storage unit so that I would have them when I had returned. That was the plan. I had executed that plan thoroughly, thoroughly well. I did exactly what I had envisioned. And so the days leading up to me packing up my life in New York and preparing for my move to Moscow, I reached out to the girls and said I could use some help putting my things into storage. Two of them had told me, you need to get rid of this stuff. It was the first one who told me this was a colleague. And though I'm not in contact with her anymore, she was a colleague from Kenya, so she had this Kenyan accent. And everything in this accent sounded like deep wisdom. So I'm hearing a friend tell me, you need to put this stuff into, you need to not put this in storage. You need to just get rid of this stuff. And I'm looking at her in her face, and I could tell that she did not know my background. She was a colleague. I was trying to get to know my colleagues a little bit better because I was no longer working with them, so I didn't see any danger. So I knew she didn't know me very well. And I remember looking at her going, I can't do it. I need to keep these things. Fast forward to the next friend, colleague of mine, who also tells me, you need to just get rid of this stuff. That conversation was one of the most impactful um, chats I have ever had in my life. That woman is now one of my best friends on this planet. And that was the first time that I was really hanging out with her. We had gone out for, I think, like coffee at some off the beaten track kind of local place. And we ended up chatting at that place for 8 solid hours straight. No awkward pauses, nothing. It is so rare when I can just connect to someone like that. It's so rare. And instantly I knew I probably had a bestie in the making. And this woman was telling me, you need to get rid of this stuff. Because I had connected so well with her, I was really listening for her logic and her reasoning behind why I needed to get rid of all these precious moments that I had worked so hard to earn. Every single thing that I had earned it. I had worked hard for it. I had studied hard for it. I had made it everything, every single thing. I did it in preparation of a life that I believed I was going to have. I thought it was the wise thing to do. Save, save, save. Get the best of what you can afford, which for me at that time and still today as a practicing philosophy means get it secondhand. Just save, get things secondhand whenever you can, and save. Work and save. Save, 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 save. So I'm holding on to these things because I don't have some kind of huge, rich, six-figure salary. I still have this kind of just kibbles for New York City that was being eaten out by the lifestyle that New York requires to stay there alive. And I could not understand why this woman was telling me that looking at everything that I had tried to achieve, that I had physically obtained, they were physical manifestations of what I earned and what I went through and the hell that I had gone through, physical manifestations of overcoming. I needed to give that stuff away. Just give that crap away. I didn't listen. I moved to Moscow after, I think it was 2 days of moving. No, it was 1 day of packing up my apartment with that same woman who is now one of my besties. Packing up that entire place. She came. She came to my place. She came to my apartment, my house. Because I was in a shared house. We went up to my bedroom. She looks at all this stuff and she's like, Natasha, you need to just give this away. And I remember saying, you don't understand. You don't know what I went through to get this bed or this particular futon. This particular futon was in memory of me graduating with my master's degree, and I just wanted to have something to honor that. I had nothing. Like, I mean, like these crazy statements. I remember one statement was, you don't understand, like the struggle that I had gone through to get this. You just don't understand. And she responded by going, why on earth do you want to remember the struggle? Like, what good is there to dwell in the memory of the struggle? And that one sat with me too. And I was like, well, I kind of understand what you're saying, but it's a good thing to like remember your roots and where you're from. And as we're packing up this room to put it in this U-Haul that I had rented, she said something to me that I still remember to this day as well. And it shook me to my core because I professed to be a devout Christian, like reading and following the teachings of the Bible, since it seems like this word Christianity has so many extreme definitions and outward practices. I have no idea what the word means today. But for me, back then in 2017, I was practicing teachings in the Bible to the best of what I believed they were saying. And she would ask me about that sometimes, just my perspective, because she had her own kind of journey that she was going on. So from time to time, we would have these discussions. And in this move that I was making with her help, she stopped me and said something to the effect of, you know, Natasha, I don't really understand you. You say that you believe in God. And from what I've understood, that means you believe that he will provide for your every need, so on and so forth. So if that's the case, then I don't understand why you see the need to hold on to these things. This is something that I'm not liking in you. I see greed. There is greed here. in this desire of preserving these things in a storage unit. And she said it so bluntly and so cleanly and transparently, it took me a step back and I was like, oh, I have no words for this. Technically, she's not wrong, but she's not right. Is she right or is she not right? And then my mind goes into introspection. So I'm packing and packing and packing, and we are like sweating, trying to get to the deadline of the storage unit, which closes at that particular day at 5:30 instead of like late at night when it usually does during the weekday. And I'm still thinking about what she said. Fast forward, I have now moved to Moscow, and it's been, oh, I don't know how many months. I have no idea. All I remember is by the time sense finally knocked into me, I was seeing a bill of something like $500 a month to keep this storage unit alive. And clearly, for me at that time, I could not afford it. Can't even afford that now, please. $500 to keep these items for a future that was not pre-told, for some destiny that was not pre-written, for a time period that I had even said I was going to block out 3 years of my life. 3 years, 12 months. 12 times 3 is 36, and 36 times 500? What on? So I was just like, of course I can't keep these. I have to give them away. So now I have to plan a trip back to the United States to give this storage unit away to someone. And once again, the pride was in me because I don't even know why. I don't really know why. I was beyond determined to make sure that the items I was now going to give away, I mean, I had a house. I literally had furniture that could furnish maybe a 2-bedroom, medium-sized apartment. I don't even know what to call medium size anymore. I don't know. But I had enough furniture for at least a small to mid-sized apartment and maybe even another room. Who knows? That's how much I had saved and collected over the years. So, and I should add, yeah, that some of that furniture was given to me for free. So that's how I got so much. I now had to spend more money to fly back to New York so that I could get rid of the furniture that all 4 of the girls were telling me, you really just need to get rid of this stuff. All 4 of my closest friends. There is like, you need to get rid of this. You need to get rid of this. You don't need it in your life. It's not going to bring you nothing. It's just get rid of it. I didn't listen. And now I have to spend money to fly back to the United States to get rid of the storage unit. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. I couldn't just give the unit to anyone. In my head, because of how I obtained all of that, all of those things, the furniture, the memories, small rewards, my art, my artwork, things like that, I couldn't just give it away to anyone. My pride was telling me this has to go to someone in need. This has to go to someone in need. I'm not just going to find people and say, hey, it has to go to someone in need. So I reached out again to my contacts and was like, do you know of anyone who is in need of the stuff that I have? Because some of this stuff is brand new in a way. Like this is pretty good furniture. The bulk of it was furniture. And so a friend had told me that she had a contact or client who worked for some Muslim women's organization, or maybe she was the head of a Muslim women's organization that was relocating like refugees, something to this effect. And so we arranged for them to come to my storage unit and do the transfer. the day of the transfer, for the most part, it went as smooth as one can expect when you're working with movers and storage unit opening hours and things like that. You're flying you're flying into a country. You have a very short period of time. I think I had something like 48 hours and I had to fly right back to Moscow. So, of course, there were going to be some hiccups, but the transfer in the end went smoothly. And I took some video and recorded some shots of them just like packing up my life. And my feelings, my emotions were, they really were the definition of bittersweet. I didn't know how to let go of my past in such a physical form. And yet I knew I had to let go of my past in such a physical, relentless means of separation in order to advance further into this future that is unknown. All those kind of thoughts were swimming around, cooking in my mind. And I remember the moment that the mover had, said, like, is this it? And I said, yeah, that's it, guys. That's pretty much it. We're done. And he took the top of I don't know if it was a U-Haul, but like a moving van. He pulled it down, I think. Or no. I think he closed the doors. And that was it. And it was this weird kind of emotional experience. It felt like intangible weight had just been removed off of my back. It brings me back to this book, really old book that some of you may or may not have heard. It's called The Pilgrim's Progress. If you grew up in church, you probably have heard of this book. I mean, pastors love to go over this book. But say you're not a church folk, or you're not in church anymore, or it's just not your thing, or you're in a completely different religion or whatever, it's still applicable. It's this book that is well known because it is this, I think it's like 500 pages of an allegory written by this man named John Bunyan. And in the first few pages in this allegory, the protagonist, this main character, comes to this realization that he has to leave this place where he calls home, and he has to go and find something called the Celestial City because he had an awakening about what life should really be like, especially in the ever after. And the moment, I think, in the mid of the book, he has this sort of confrontation. I might be butchering this. He has this not confrontation. He has this encounter with another character, or I think like at a particular gate, and he had this backpack or like a rucksack that he had on his back, or a bindle, and he had been carrying this bindle with him for the entire time up until the time that he had gotten to this particular place. It's been a few years. I read it when I was a child, so it's been a few years since I've read it. But that moment when he gets to this place and he looks up to the heavens, and he does this kind of like repentance type of thing where he lets down this bindle and he removes it off his back. I remember reading words that gave the sense of he had a huge weight on his shoulder that was now removed and released. And the important thing in that is not that he just had the thing removed and is now released, but it is what happens afterwards that happened to me as well. I did not know, just like that character, how much weight I was carrying on my back until it was gone and there was no way, shape, or form I could get that back on me again. That is the point. These lifestyles that we seem to be programmed into following, this mindset of what is the right track in order to enter and pursue through adulthood. These very preconceived notions as to what is the right path builds up unseen this type of metaphysical burden or weight that sits on our shoulders or our bodies or our backs, regardless of religion or society or whatever it is. You can be in any country, it doesn't matter. The one thing that travel has shown me is that this is a very, very, very small world in terms of how society differs from one another. It does not differ when it comes down to the core things of trying to have a healthy lifestyle, well-being, happiness, and sustainable income. It is a very tiny world. And as we fight through those different challenges, these weights, it's like they get sucked onto our back and we can't see it. So it just builds and builds and builds. We might be thinking, oh, well, I'm getting some strength. I'm still standing today. The day that car, the van closed doors and I could no longer get back the possessions I was trying to hold on to, that sensation of having that intangible weight, I don't know what else to call it, that intangible weight being lifted and removed from my body, never going back to it. I'm now so adverse to it, to the extent that it's unfortunate when at least it's not so much with friends anymore. I think it really did throw off one of my friends a few years ago. But whenever someone says, oh, I'd like to gift you something, or I'd like to buy you something, or here is this gift and it's a physical gift, I am just like, oh my God, please, no, no, no. Because I do not want to carry any kind of unnecessary weight on me, not physically and certainly not metaphysically. I don't want it. It is there's so much energy that is poured into trying to stand upright while holding onto those burdens. And it's never positive. If there is one thing that travel has taught me, it is really in this mindset of what I need in my life, what I want in my life, and how those needs and wants play around this notion of greed. I am trying to do everything in my power this year to ensure that I never have to go back to a 9-to-5 job. I mean, I've said that so many times on my own YouTube channel, and now I'm starting a podcast series because I'm much more comfortable just speaking instead of using a camera. And so, through these different podcast episodes, I really want to take moments to explore the different pivotal paradigm shifts that have occurred through different personal, even intimate events that have happened in my life, for which has changed the way that I navigate my future. That might be a very poetic way in saying something like, I'd like to talk to my 15-year-old self. I'd like to talk to my 20-year-old self I like to talk to my 25-year-old self, to my 30-year-old self, to my 35-year-old self. Next year I'm turning 40. All of these insights that I have, I would love to share it with someone who may be going through similar challenges and just does not know of alternative ways of either thinking about the challenge or navigating the challenge, processing the challenge, etc., or maybe even feels alone. We've all gone through this, at least the ones who have taken time to process it through some type of introspection. It's not new, but the experience may be unique to you. On a whole, I would love to see this podcast become a space for community building in a positive and uplifting way, where sharing the experiences that have really challenged us on this day-to-day journey enables others to avoid making the same type of costly mistake that may initially feel like it is wisdom, but in actuality, it is not. Should you have gone through something similar, share it. I would love to read it. Love to see the similarities that we have in life, regardless of where you are from or what country you're in. I've now been in, I think, just a little under 40 countries as well. Be interesting if I can do 40 countries by the time I'm 40. But I've now been in just a little fewer than 40 countries. Whether I'm living in those countries or working in those countries or just touring those countries, I've seen the same thing. It's a very small world. The emotional experiences that we all go through are wildly similar, if not exactly the same. So instead of finding ways to tear each other down, which may always happen in the end, who knows? But instead of leaning upon that path as the force of navigation to the future, let's first decide to get together and try to understand how to be, as much as I hate this phrase, how to be better versions of ourselves so that we can help and empower each other. I'll leave you with that thought for today. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know, the whole 9 yards. Put the dinger on or the bell or whatever. I'm building this channel. I am not going to stop this time, as I'm just 100% committed finally, especially since I never want to go back to a 9 to 5. So I really would appreciate your likes, your comments, your suggestions or feedback. They're all meaningful. Support, support, support. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Well, if you can get the couches in that little section right there, it won't work. Or what about the lamp? No?
The lamp? The one standing up? Yeah.
There's two standing. There's one that's silver and there's one that's bronze.
Oh, the bronze is here.
There's another bronze one. They were twins. Okay. What about the mirror? Can it slide in somewhere there? It might break. It's up to you guys. It's a big mirror. It's like maybe as tall as both of us or something, somewhere between our heights.
Okay.
But that small couch, no. Okay, no worries.
Can we go up and get that?
Huh?
Can we go up and get that?
Yes, please.